Hey there, I'm Ari from the Tech Buyers Guru, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about a product that I once highly recommended, the Canon G3200 Megatank printer, and have now come to realize is a complete and utter design failure. Now, as background, I actually purchased this myself in August 2017, so it's about 4 years old now. I paid $250 at retail, and then I heavily promoted it on my website and even went on the local TV news show to promote this on live TV. I liked it so much. I thought it was a breath of fresh air in the inkjet industry, which had a sordid history of scamming people with replaceable ink cartridges that often ran out after 200 or 300 prints and cost more than the printer themselves. Now, look, when I found the Megatank, I said, this is it. It has these refillable tanks. The ink is much less expensive, and you're paying an honest price. This was $250, which was a lot for something that was basically just a black box, didn't have any fancy screens on it. And people were used to paying almost nothing for printers because they were subsidized so much by the ink prices. And I said, this is honest pricing. I'm going to recommend this to you because now you pay upfront a cost that is basically the honest price of this printer, the technology that goes into it, and then you pay very little for the ink going forward. It's like $20 for a refill, and you get the promise of maybe 6,000 prints. Well, I take it all back, folks. This is a scam, and I'm going to show you why this is designed to fail. And it's something that shocked me as I worked through the troubleshooting on this printer. I use it myself. This is my personal color printer I use for photographs of my family. And I had been having problems with photos for a while, and I decided, hey, I'm finally going to take the time, sit down and troubleshoot this, look at other YouTube videos, look at the manual, try everything I can. So first off, I'm going to show you what the photos look like coming out of the printer. I was clearly missing a color. In this case, it was magenta or red. It was not coming out of the nozzles. So I did what was considered a standard cleaning based on the software. There's Windows software that Canon provides. You can also start this up using a combination of buttons on the top of the printer. And I did that ink cleaning, and frankly, it didn't do anything. So I went the next step and performed a deep cleaning. Now, this does warn you that it uses lots of ink, and I thought, well, that's okay because I'm not able to use my ink anyway. Well, what happened after I did that deep cleaning is, as you can see, I had even fewer colors. Now I lost the blue as well. And here's a printout of that same photo with just yellow. Obviously, you can't print a photo in a single color. Just yellow is even worse than just black. All right, so at this point, I was left scratching my head thinking, I'm a tech guru. I can't be stumped by this silly black box. I've got to get this working. Each of these ink head cleanings I've done has made the printouts worse. What's the next step? So I dug deeper into the manual, did some more research on YouTube, and I found that there is a next step. Canon calls it a system cleaning, and others will call it an ink flush or an ink purge. And that made a lot of sense to me. Look, there's a lot going on in this printer, and I appreciate that. There's all this tubing inside the printer that is required to bring the ink from the tanks to the ink heads, right? We don't have those cartridges that move along with the ink heads themselves. So maybe there was a jam somewhere in there in all this tubing, and I just needed to flush that out. So I did look in the manual, and I found that there was a way to initiate it. You don't use the Windows software. It's not available there. You actually have to press a combination of buttons like 7 times to initiate this, and then your system cleaning will begin. So I figured, okay, I'm going to do it. I did the combination of buttons, and then nothing but a bunch of flashing lights, no motion, no movement, no noise. The printer threw out another error that showed up on my screen, and it was dead. So I looked up the error code 5B00, and I found that it meant that the ink absorber was full. All right, so I'm starting to connect the dots here. I'm thinking I've done a lot of ink flushing here. It's because I don't use this a lot, and every time I have to print a photo, I have to do a flush. And I always did kind of wonder, where's that extra ink going? Well, it goes into the ink absorber. And unfortunately, this is where Canon has designed this printer to fail. The ink absorber is literally just a sponge. And when the sponge fills, your Canon Megatank printer will no longer work. I went online and I could not believe what I found. There are kind of gray market companies selling codes for $9 or $10 that will reset your ink absorber count. but it doesn't actually replace the sponges because this is literally a physical problem. The sponges are full. Then I found someone selling a tank that you can buy to put outside that you connect with a tube. You have to drill a hole through the back of your printer to route this tube into what they call like a printer potty. And I appreciate they came up with a solution, but this is something Canon should have come up with. I even found tutorials online that suggested that I remove these sponges, soak them in a bucket of water for 24 hours, then leave them out in the sun to dry for another 24 hours, and then reinsert them in the printer. But then I found people who tried this ridiculous process and said the ink absorber count still wouldn't reset because the printer still thought the sponges were full. At this point, I said enough is enough. Instead of trying to refurbish or revive this printer, I'm going to make a video about it. So here I am, and unfortunately at this point, I don't have a color printer I can use, nor one that I can recommend to you, despite the fact that I really value the ability to print photos at home. For a while we had the issue with inkjet cartridges that cost more than the printer you bought. Then you had inkjet cartridges that were rated for 1,000 prints that would only last like 200. Then you had the issue of inkjet cartridges that would shut down your printer. This was HP. That would remotely shut down inkjet printers if you used off-brand cartridges. This was just such a terrible story. And frankly, you know how many prints I got out of this printer over 4 years of ownership? About 50 photos. 50 photos. So it had nothing to do with how much ink was in the cartridges. The thing just became obsolete. It shut itself down. Because frankly, I only print a couple of photos a month. Maybe this was my fault. Maybe the way to keep this alive is to print something every day so it never needs to be flushed. But there's got to be a better solution. There's got to be a way to keep these things running without burning through all your ink and filling this nasty diaper in the back of the printer that can't be replaced. If you have thoughts about this, please let me know. I'd love to be able to recommend another inkjet printer for photo printing at home, but I don't know of one that I trust. So, as always, I'm Ari from the Tech Buyers Guru, and I will catch you next time.